And thanks for staying with us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television AIT. This is the Signature Show. I'm Wabuze Njoku, welcoming you to this Sunday's edition of the program, as always. And with me is Vin Martin Obiora. Hello, Vin.
Thank you, Wabuze. Well, we are reaching you on a day that the world is waking up to a new dawn in the United States with all these implications. Welcome to the Signature Show.
Let's come back to Nigeria because subsequently we'll discuss that U.S. election. But the Inspector General of Police has been going around police formations across the country trying to encourage policemen to return to full policing of their areas of command. Now, then, since after the NSAS protests, which went violent, policemen have virtually been off the street, and the IG says that the morale of his men is low. What is the implication of that for our own security?
Well, they are off the road, the morale is low, understandably, because we all agree in this country that as much as the NSAS agitation was legitimate, the destruction of lives and property when the whole campaign was hijacked by hoodlums and criminals was illegitimate. And one of the groups that suffered were security men, especially the police. It hurt me, and you and I, we've talked about this several times, that we had to attack individual policemen. I mean, the height of it was somewhere in the eastern part of the country where allegedly a head of a policeman was cut and was displayed on the streets. I find it very difficult to believe that was the head of a policeman. But if it was, it is despicable. It shouldn't have ever happened. And I think that we owe an apology to the Nigeria police for how some of their men were treated. They are also Nigerians. They are good policemen. We are journalists. They are good policemen. They are good journalists and bad journalists. So some of them have suffered. They've borne the brunt of the mistake or the excesses of some of their colleagues. So understandably, the morale is low, and I think it's good that the IG of police is going, and we've heard state governors appealing to the policemen to please come back to work. We'll look at whatever happened. I think it's good. We need to do something to their morale.
Yes, then also the IGP is making certain promises, which I want us to look into.
Like promoting those
who died in the course of this to the next rank. Also compensating those men who were injured in the course of these protests. Well, then let me go to something a little more positive. In the course of last week, really, two organizations, our friends in the National Broadcasting Commission in the Southeast, and also our friends in the Rotary Club of Abuja, celebrated two gentlemen. Now, incidentally, one of them, that is the former director of the National Broadcasting Commission.
Zonal
director in the Southeast Zone.
Yes, a very distinguished journalist, broadcaster per excellence, Mr. Ebunaba. And his very, very amiable, pretty wife, Theodora. They celebrated 50 years of their marriage. Let's take about a minute or two of what happened at that very, very exciting event.
Jesus Christ bụ onye nwe. Imeta masologi, imeta josologi. I was a cake. Now, surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of life, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen.
And
yes, Vin.
you were also talking about
a second celebration.
Yes.
No, our friends at the Rotary Club, Federal Housing Estate, Karu, the Abuja branch, there was a change of pattern.
Oh yes.
The fifth president of the Rotary Club was inducted.
So I think we'll take another minute or so of what transpired at Karu just this past week.
The people of my club, the members of my club, to have bestowed this responsibility, onerous responsibility on me to lead the club for the next one Rotary year. The club has gone a long way, it has come a long way. We have been doing things in the past, but we decided to this time around take the bull by the horn to scale up the projects that we want to execute. Some of the projects you have already seen are the primary health care center that we just unveiled.
As at this afternoon, it is a new dawn in the United States.
Oh yes, a new dawn.
A new president, a fresh president. But I don't want to take away anything from the result of this election as much as two things. One is in the course of the campaign. Two is in the course of the emergence of this new president. The campaign first. Both Biden and Trump could be identified with certain accountable promises. Allow me just to mention one or two. Biden was clear. U.S. will transition out of fossil fuel, he said. U.S. will be kinder in matters of immigration. U.S. will get back into a membership of the global community. U.S. will no longer push for isolationism. That was Biden. Trump also was clear. I'm going to continue building the wall. I've built almost 400 miles plus of it. I'm not going to allow immigration as it pleases anybody.
Open border.
Oh, good. I'm going to withdraw American troops from areas we have no business being there. He could also be held to account for those promises. So, the result of this election could then be interpreted to mean the acceptance of those promises or rejection of them by the American electorate. Vin, can you come home? That's my interest.
Yeah, why not? Politicians are the same everywhere. The difference is that in Nigeria and a lot of other developing countries, especially in Africa and Asia, they make these promises and you can't hold them to account because your votes don't count. Elections are rigged.
I'm very worried.
The elections are compromised. But, you know, you could see in the course of counting the votes in the US and when Trump questioned the credibility
of the process,
of the democratic process, even Republicans rose against him to say, "You don't do that. You crossed the line. You don't. If you're saying that there were malpractices, we need proof. We need evidence." So yes, it's something of concern that back here, your legislator, someone in the House of Representatives, after 4 years, had not performed.
Had not represented
you. Don't have the power. You have your vote, but because of the way elections are manipulated, you can't say, Mr. A, you will not go back.
Because you didn't perform.
Because you didn't perform. Even the recall process in our Constitution has proved in the last 20-something years of our democracy that it will never work. The way it is written, the practicability of it, has made it impossible to recall anyone.
Well, let's go to a special report for this Sunday. It is on the challenge of restructuring. Stay with us.
On Saturday, October 31st, the governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, washed his hands of the blame that he was complicit in the failure by the ruling All Progressive Congress APC to restructure Nigeria. At the 50th anniversary celebration of the Arewa House, El-Rufai called on the National Assembly Ad Hoc Committee on Constitutional Review to take advantage of the 2018 recommendations by the APC Committee on Restructuring to effect critical amendments to the 1999 Constitution. Governor El-Rufai was the chairman of the committee set up by the APC to produce the party's position on the contentious issue of restructuring. Governor El-Rufai said his committee had recommended state police, more control of oil and gas revenues, minerals, correctional facilities, and stamp duties to be given to the state. The El-Rufai committee's position contradicts that of President Muhammadu Buhari, who in his 2018 New Year address to the nation said, "When all the aggregates of nationwide opinions are considered, my opinion is that our problems have more to do with process than structure."
In respect of political developments, I have kept a close watch on the ongoing debate about restructuring in court. No human law or edifice is perfect. Whatever structure we develop must periodically be perfected according to changing circumstances and the country's socio-economic developments. We Nigerians can be very impatient and want to improve our conditions faster than may be possible, considering our resources and capabilities. When all the aggregates of nationwide opinions are considered, my firm view is that our problems are more to do with process than structure.
It is 2 years since the El-Rufai committee submitted its report to the APC leadership, headed then by Adams Oshiomhole. If the party which controls the executive, the legislature, and even the judiciary has not been able to begin restructuring Nigeria as promised during the 2015 election, and now recommended by its own committee, what could be responsible?
It is not a question of implementation. It is a question of the party never intended to restructure Nigeria, because that's one of the promises they made in 2014, 2015. And when Nigerians raise so much issues and doubts about, you've been in power for 3 years, what are you doing? In the usual way, they set up a panel to deceive Nigerians.
As another election cycle approaches in 2023, some Nigerians are beginning to wonder if the issue of restructuring will become another vote-winning but empty promise by the APC. While some experts think some extra democratic forces are behind the non-implementation of APC committee's recommendations on restructuring, some others are of the opinion that the legislators who should be in the forefront of canvassing for any structural changes are either ineffective or unconcerned. Osai Iloeme, a governance expert, expresses doubts about the commitment of the current regime to restructuring. He says the APC administration never intended to restructure the country.
If restructuring or the committee report is something that the party considered important in terms of, the delivery of their campaign promises and campaign policies, it is no rocket science for them to understand how to go about it. And so for me, every Nigerian should know that this current trading of words between El-Rufai and other members of the APC or other members of the legislature is simply a grand plan to continue to hoodwink Nigerians in believing that they are actually doing something to engender the restructuring of Nigeria. They are not.
A security expert, Raymond Ihanacho, however, advised that the country be divided according to geographical locations.
Our population is too big for one person to manage. So it's quite difficult to just have everything coming from the center. I think we are finding it difficult to manage this our population. So there must be there must definitely be a proper restructuring of the country so that it is manageable by whatever arrangement we want to make, whether it is the current geopolitical zones we want to do, or that one I told you, maybe we use longitude this to longitude that. So everybody who falls within there, oh yeah, one group.
His examples have gone to show that an ethnically diverse society does not necessarily work against the emergence of powerful nations. Will the APC-led government therefore fulfill their promise of restructuring before the 2023 elections? Or will they use it as an agenda once again to get into government? You're watching The Signature Show, and on our special interview segment, we have two academics, Dr. Mukhtar Imam and Dr. Philip Afaha, all of the University of Abuja, and they're looking at the lessons from the U.S. elections. I'll give it to you, Mwabeze.
This is SignatureTV.org. Breaking the news. Following the news. Analyzing the news. 247 round the clock. All on the go. SignatureTV.org. News in your pocket.
Well, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show this Sunday. As Vin Martin and I said in the introduction, we'll be looking at issues from the U.S. presidential election. Of course, it's a new dawn, a fresh president for the U.S. But before then, campaigns, issues were canvassed. Before then, the two candidates have made promises. Now, this afternoon, I have two intellectuals who will help me look at those issues in relation to Nigerian politics. On my left is Dr. Philip Afaha, Head of Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, University of Abuja. Dr. Afaha, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Also on my right now is Dr. Mukhtar Imam. He's a lecturer in the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy of Base University. Dr. Mukhtar, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a long time we had a conversation.
Yes, it's been a while.
Now, Dr. Afaha, let me start with you.
Yeah.
If you look at the campaign by the two candidates in the U.S., you could hold them to certain issues. One, Trump is talking about keeping the jobs back in America. Two, is insisting on continuing to build his wall to ensure that illegal immigrants don't come in. He went as far as saying that he was not going to open the borders to extremist Islamist terrorists to come and kill Americans. He is clear that he's a Christian. He's not shying away from it. Biden is saying, I will tax the rich to make certain things available for the poor. I will develop and protect the working class. I will protect the farmers. These two gentlemen can be identified with specific promises for which the electorate can hold them to account subsequently. Doc, I want you to compare this. to the way our own politicians make their promises and how far we, the electorate, can hold them accountable?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think at this juncture it is very apt for us to look at the way the American electorate perceive politics and the way we perceive politics as Africans. Let me not only say as Nigerians. You have noticed over the years that whenever we are having elections, our politicians are coming out with one wish list. I'll give you water, I'll give you good roads, I will improve your electricity, I will renovate schools, I will do health, and those other things. And if you notice, the American politicians are not talking about those things. They have gone beyond those elementary issues, elementary needs of the electorate. Now, the American electorate are sophisticated because they have had democracy for over 200 years. So they have learned over time to hold their leaders to account. This is what you promise, and this is what we expect you to deliver. And the people representing the electorate, who are the parliamentarians, are always at grasp at the feelings of the electorate. But if you notice here, there seems to be a disconnect. Do we have a relationship with our parliamentarians? No. We elected them. But you notice that immediately you elect them into the National Assembly or in our state House of Assemblies or in local government councils, you notice that you have lost them. In fact, what is remaining a little is in the National Assembly. At the State House of Assembly and the local government, the parliament has died. The legislature is no longer there. It has been eaten up by the powers of the state governors and some of those cabals at that level. At the national, you notice that the powers, the vibrancy of the legislature is waning. Within the past 5 years, we have noticed a slide in the powers, in the vibrancy of our legislature. So which means the people do not have any link with government. So government can promise this, and at the end of the day, it is not doing that. And the people, is not as if they are forgetful. They are powerless. The Nigerian electorate are powerless.
And we soon find out whether they are powerless. Now, Dr. Mutar, if the outcome of this U.S. election could rightly be interpreted as the consequence of delivered or undelivered promise, or the consequence of promises better accepted on the part of either Trump or Biden, can the outcome of a Nigerian election be said to reflect how the electorate has voted in terms of the promises that were fulfilled and that were not fulfilled, or the promises made that attract the electorate?
Well, thank you. That's a very important question. You see, the thing is, these two political climes are actually peculiar in their nature. They're peculiar in their history, and they're peculiar in their evolution. They're also peculiar in terms of the social psychological standing of the individuals, who in this case are the electorates in these two different climes. They're also peculiar in terms of the relationship between the sub and superstructure in these two different climes. You find that in one scenario, the United States as A, the relationship has always been along the line of citizen leadership relations. This is what we have always seen as a result of the long-standing democratic consolidation within the years from its independence in 1774. But in our own case, when you look at the history, for example, you would find that the pattern of relation between the sub and superstructure has been predicated upon ruler-subject relationship. Perhaps as a result of the military incursions we've had over the years and so on and so forth. That has basically shaped our psyche along the line of being subjects rather than being citizens. So going forward, you also find that as far as the political culture, the political socialization is concerned in this climb, this is not just peculiar to Nigeria. This is something that happens in most new states as a result of a number of issues. Colonialism cannot be taken away from all of that. There is no doubt about that colonialism has some of its perks, but then, of course, that incursion basically brought it put a spanner to the wheel of some of the events that were taking shape at that time. But that's something entirely different. But here again, you look at the political culture, the political socialization, like I was trying to say, of individuals or electorate within the Nigerian context. You will come to see that, of individual and also those in position of authority, because those in position of authority are gotten from the people. Now, you find that the electoral system, the political equation, the democratic process doesn't really align with what we have in modern liberal democratic context in the case of the United States, for example. Our politics, our elections, our political parties, first and foremost, our political parties are more or less political movements. This is where we need to draw the line between the consolidation political parties and, of course, reconciliatory political parties, and understand that our political parties are still at that form, all right, of trying to gain footing, but yet we trade wrongly. We have been erroneously moving in the wrong direction over the years. And our political parties have refused to stop and look inward to see how they can rectify the problems that exist within the party structures themselves. And why is this happening? Because we are in a particular scenario or society where both the leaders and the followers have basically failed to understand and put in perspective each other's obligations, each other's rights, and so on and so forth. So you find that a politician gives you money or gives you borehole, and he has done so much. So those very trivial, those very elementary, minimal things mean so much to us as a result of where we're coming from. These are some of the things that have shaped our political education. And so it is reporting, it is telling on our electoral process. And that's why our politicians don't even care about setting agenda, bringing plan. Because we, the people, have proven to them that we are like you. People of low intellectual standing. We can't even hold, we don't even know. If you don't know, what will you hold to account for?
Are there not enough experiences, enough challenges, enough objectives to achieve within the Nigerian political, within Nigerian society, around which ideals can aggregate and therefore begin to develop what Dr. Afah is referring to as parties emerging from ideologies? Ideologies emerge from social experiences. Don't we have enough around which ideologies can aggregate, and then the how of solving political problems becomes the issue?
Well, I think in our journey thus far, from our democratic journey, from 1999, I think that's when we would say we would have consolidated democracy. I was trying to create that distinction. So it's more or less the current democratic journey as a result of the incursions in the past. The reality is we should be able to, at this juncture, have found a footing that allows us to gravitate towards one another into harnessing and developing a sense of ideology. But there are a lot of issues, or a number of issues, that have basically permeated the system that has not allowed these ideals we speak about to thrive, to rear their heads. We are still in that system where it is the old hands, these individuals who broke the system, these people who midwifed the nationalist parties and individuals who had those sense of belonging and ideology, and then took away the system and ran with it. These individuals are the ones who still superintend as far as our political systems are concerned. These individuals are the ones who still constitute the elites. Remember circulation of elites? They are still the ones who still constitute themselves around power. And so it's not going to be entirely easy for people who have ideology. Remember the words of PLO Lumumba in Kenya when he contested elections, and he said, I went and I was bombarding them with ideology. Unbeknownst to me, it was about the man with the deep pockets. So here we are in this exact type of scenario. And so you find that it becomes difficult for the people who actually have this notion, this level of understanding, to be able to break through the status quo. Why? Because the status quo actually benefits that 1%, and they want to continue to maintain the status quo. But alas, we have gotten to the point, and I see us moving in that direction, where that awakening is beginning to come. You see, the things that distinguish elections in, or rather democratic systems, one from another, say the ones in the developed climes and we that are here, is the ideological root and the value system. These are some of the things we need to begin to inculcate in ourselves. Yes, some might argue that in our democratic journey was still very young, in our modern or current democratic journey was still very young. The United States has experienced this ceaselessly for a very lengthy period of time. But that's not the case. That's not the case because the Chinese have been able to galvanize certain things and have moved along the line of development far ahead within the space of 40 years. And here we are. So, and if you're talking about resources, China doesn't have what we have. If you're talking about a human population, of course, we're the largest economy in Africa. 1 out of every 4 Africans is a Nigerian. So in that context as well, you see that we have a lot of pitfalls. The same applies to our democratic system and our political structure. So yes, these things are there. The individuals who should be able to drive this are also there. Recall, in the words of Chairman Mao, he asserted, and I quote, that from a long-term perspective, the real power belongs to, first he says that all reactionaries are paper tigers. And when he's talking about reactionaries, he's talking about leaders. He says all reactionaries are paper tigers. And that from a long-term point of view, the real power belongs to the ordinary people. Now, this is where the question is, do the ordinary people understand what powers they wield? Because until we begin to have that understanding, I have always argued that education, being educated and being lettered are two different things. We have a lot of reading and writing illiterates working amidst us. And these are the people who constitute a chunk of our problems. Religious chauvinists and bigots. These are the people who are unrepentant ethnic warlords and try to instill these ideals and ideas in other people.
They call them the ideals.
Exactly. So basically, yes, of course. So basically, these are people who constitute, a chunk of our problems. These are people who will not allow people look beyond these primordial sentiments. And these are some of the things that are dragging us back. These are some of the things that will not make us understand where we are. It is very, very important that people are educated. When I say educated, it doesn't mean they have to go through the 4 walls of institution of learning. And until people know what their rights are, what at least the budget is, it is going to be extremely difficult for you to go. Do you know the number of Nigerians who know what the security vote in this country is to state governors? We don't know. So until this information is out there, until people become informed, until they become aware, until they begin to
conscious that it is
that
right
consciousness has to be awakened. So yes, in our case, we're still dragging behind. A whole lot is still missing, but there's room for growth. There's room for improvement, because when you look at our elections, for example, in 2015, Nigeria conducted one of the elections that was adjudged one of the freest and fairest in the world at a time where the United States was struggling with the outcome of an election. And look where the United States is today. At least some of the weaknesses, the lacunas within the United States society, beyond even its politics, has been exposed.
Right? You have introduced a new dimension, and that's why I'm coming to you.
Yes.
Because it's introduced something quite interesting. Today, Americans who are supporting Trump are demonstrating in the street. Today, Trump himself is questioning the American democratic process. Today, Trump is questioning the electoral workers, whether they can be trusted to be impartial. These are issues, as Dr. Mukhtar has said, which are thrown up every day in Nigeria's electoral process. Fraud, pardon, manipulation. It remains ballot box snatching. How do you think that this will hurt the American democratic process, what Trump has introduced?
Yes. You see, in every human society, we have these fault lines. And it goes to show that the human nature is the same. Irrespective of where you are seeing the human being, the psychology is the same. Depends on whether it had been upgraded to a certain level, or whether certain circumstances that are making people to behave in a certain way. If you were asked in exams that Americans are going to behave in the way they are behaving in 2020 in their elections, I think we would have all failed that examination. But interestingly, it's popping up. In fact, in the social media, people are even making jest of the American system, that Nigeria should also write to Americans that we are going to ban them from coming to Nigeria for misbehaving during their elections. Having said that, what I see, the harm that is done to American system is enormous. Because if you look at the personality of Trump, it is not only about the election time. Before Trump came into power, he has been making efforts at tearing down the American political system, tearing down in the true sense of the word. Not only criticizing, demonizing, and making nonsense of the entire system. From the Obama bet issue, we jumped into other issues up to this election. Every aspect of American life that President Trump found threatening to his own person, he has gone as far as tearing it to shreds. And the Americans have been playing along, because in their democracy, when somebody is dead, there's nothing you can do about it until the tenure is over. But the thing is reaching a peak during these elections. Nobody is saying that an election is going to be 100% perfect. Elections are organized by human beings with all their foibles. But if you monitor what is going on in America currently under this election, you notice that the noise coming out from Trump camp is much more than the issues on the ground. The fault lines are there, but I think there is an attempt to really destroy, to exacerbate, to destroy the system. And that is not good for American democracy. It weakens Americans' position in global affairs, and it also helps to tear the American society apart, much beyond where it already is. In fact, the situation in America, the situation, the relations, human relations in America currently is such that it's so scary. So scary to the extent that even if and when a candidate, when a winner will be announced under this election, it will take such a person almost half a decade to see how to sort out American society, some of the issues, because some of these issues have been weaponized. Not only raising these issues, weaponize these issues, these social issues, to such an extent that I saw on the social media people acquiring guns in the run-off to this election. And that is dangerous for the American society. So I see there is a very dangerous game being played out in America, and it's going to affect them. Not only affecting America, it has made America to lose that respect. The respect of America being able to call a country like Nigeria or Ghana or Sierra Leone, oh, look, what you are doing during your election is not proper. Because now you have already messed in the marketplace, market square, and your children are laughing at you. Okay. So what moral capital do you have again to call these smaller countries to order when they mess up? So that is the issue now.
Dr. Mutara, that's a worry, a very big worry. I'm also more worried that a number of Nigerian politicians, a number of intellectuals and pundits will always make reference to the American system as an example which Nigeria should copy, as a democracy that we should emulate. How does it hurt Nigeria's democracy? That country towards which it looks seems to be exposing is behind.
Yes, I think the more appropriate way would be, how does it hurt global politics? Because you're concerned about Nigeria. Yes, that's why I said the more appropriate. Because the reality is the United States is not just a self-acclaimed hegemon, but then it has proven to a significant extent to have had a toll on global politics. You remember the writings of Francis Fukuyama. You remember, Samuel Huntington talking about this is the most advanced democracy in the world, and so on and so forth. And the entire world bought to that narrative, and it became a rhetoric that we were taking and playing with and running with. And so it became a thing with us to say the United States is the most advanced, and therefore the world should look to it, to learn from it, and so on and so forth. But given the current circumstances, the polarization, I said this is not happening now. Trump started this with Hillary. He did this. He awakened this monster so that he could gain himself the Republican ticket. This was the rhetoric he played out to the American people. And of course, because all humans have their fallibilities and gullibility, he was able to galvanize the people who bought into the idea of the ultra-nationalist, white supremacist line of thinking. And so that got him to office. And that monster he awakened. And I said this in 2016, that look, what Trump has done to get to right to power is an irreparable damage that perhaps could haunt the United States for another generation. It's not something, like Dr. said, that will take a few years for somebody to fix. Biden, I don't envy Biden his job. He has a task. He might not understand domestic politics, foreign policy, military, global image. Perception is important in politics, whether domestic or international. So what Trump has succeeded in doing basically sends a signal to the entire world, including politicians in Nigeria as well, who basically hold the American political system or democratic structure to high standards. It has proven that there's a possibility of a fallibility in this structure. So long as you're dealing with humans, and there is always the tendency, you know, of having this kind of pitfalls and so on and so forth. So it also tells us that we can also harmonize ourselves and try to pick ourselves from where we are to move along that direction of becoming an envy of the world. It's not impossible. We can actually attain these feats.
It's not impossible. My last quick question, and I think Dr. you answered, and Dr. Mukhtar can also come in. Does this monster, can this Trump monster rear its head in Nigeria? What do Nigerians need to fear?
Yes, this monster, this Trump monster, authoritarianism, can rear its head anywhere in the world, not only in Nigeria. I mean, the most sophisticated democracies in the world can actually copy what is playing out now. That is the danger this issue is posing. Somebody wrote that democracy is facing a recession globally. You notice it is not only about Trump. If you check most countries of the world, it is like the leaders within the past 5, 6, 7 years were handpicked. Some people that are behaving in funny manners were handpicked to different countries. It is not only in America. In other countries of the world, I will not mention the countries, but you notice that they tend to behave in a certain manner. And that is not good for democracy. It's actually a dent on democracy globally, both in Africa, in Europe, in America, in Asia. You notice this kind of persons coming up, people who reason this way. The people that naturally are, socially outcast, coming up, take the reins of government and making it the way they think. And I noticed that a whole lot of people are also keying into that fashion. And it's dangerous. Because with the numbers I'm seeing, I've seen the American elections, the voting that is coming out. You notice that if Biden is winning by 2,000 votes, this other one is also losing by 2,000 votes. It's dangerous. It means that it's not only Trump that the world has to contend with. Like Dr. Mukhtar said, there are a whole lot of people who have
Whom do we need to fear?
bought into that ideology.
Whom do you need to fear? What kind of politician do we need to fear?
Well, there's a saying in Hausa that "Kuocha gauta jachi." Every garden egg is red. Well, as far as fear is concerned, it's an essential tool to greatness. I think we need to take that fear and try to begin to rebuild the consciousness in ourselves. We, the people who demand good governance, we need to begin to do that. I'm saying this because you recall when, after the Civil War, Yakubu Gowon called intellectuals and said, let's sit around the table and fashion out a new vista for Nigeria. By the way, he had the opportunity to do that. But kudos to you, Yakubu Gowon. Let's not go into all of that in history. Aluko stood up in that meeting, if my memory serves me right. And he said, Mr. President, while all others were talking about a unitary system with a weak center, a confederate, blah, 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 he said, Mr. President, why don't we create an ideology that will be peculiar to our society, but then again that we can export to the world. So it means that we can actually create a model that the world can copy from. We have the diversity, we have the brains, we have the talent, we have the resources to do all of these things. It is not, like I said, it's not impossible. There is no system that is sacrosanct. None is religious. Every system has its gullibility and fallibility. All you need to do is look at the peculiarity of your society. When the people who designed democracy designed it, they considered the sub and superstructure within their society. Why don't we look inwards and find something? Part of the reasons why in Africa, in new states, we were at loggerhead with democracy, recall the words of the late Ali Mazrui, is because we were coming from a place of traditional system of authority, and we had the modern liberal democracy imposed on us. So we're in between what he called communocracy. That's where the conflict is. So we need to begin to, an ideology is a package. We must try to package something for ourselves. Yes, we want to be a democracy. We had this democracy long before this Western democracy came about. In the traditional authorities, there was devolution of power, there was separation of power, there was alternative means of dispute resolution. So these things were there, even though we didn't call it a democracy. So we need to begin to take all of that fear and understand that we, the ordinary people, are the ones who have power, and try to dictate what direction this 1% will go in our interest.
In our interest, in the past 40 minutes or thereabout, I've been conversing with Dr. Philip Papa, Head of Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, University of Abuja. Doc, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I've also had on set Dr. Mukhtar Imam, who's a lecturer at the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy, based University. Doc, thank you very much for coming.
I'm humbled, sir.
My name remains Mwabozi Njoku. This conversation never ends. Let's meet next Sunday. Good afternoon.
And that's our program for today, the signature show on AIT. Well, if you didn't join us from the beginning, if you want to watch it all over again, go to www.signaturetv.org. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo. Thanks for watching.
Well, I remain Mwabozi Njoku, but please don't you go away, because corruption story follows immediately. And join us there, and you know how the Connie man went to jail. Good afternoon.
Now welcome to the correct program Corruption Tori, for where we dey shine light put for any matter wey concern corruption and how we go take comot am kpata for this our country Nigeria. Now we pray and our hope be that. My name na Ufuoma Eguriase, and I want to welcome una especially come today edition. Harmattan don dey comot face small with cool but dry breeze wey dey blow dust come. Just get as e be. My producer be yarn say na harmattan season na im better pass to marry new wife or new husband. When ask me why, na say you go fit to sabi how person skin true be. Sake of e get the way rainy season they take they make skin fresh. You can't fit deceive person. Anyway, that one now on a lighter matter. The most important part we say harmattan breeze they blow things well, and if you to show wetin chicken hide under feather. My people, the chicken will hide things under feather for this our corruption Tori episode for today. You know, pass Chiamo of NNPC Kaduna branch of Petroleum and National Gas Workers Association. That will be Pengasan for short. Comrade Nuhu Aliyu, where people, workers trust them well, but he do ogboju, he cheating comrades, can't jump, enter a wolf prison, go balance for there. My people, well, we dey follow the journey of how Comrade Nuhu Aliyu travel from trustee, go prison yard, and our corruption Tori for today be that. I beg, tanda with us.
This na corruption Tori.
ọmọ ayé ni ẹyẹ pọ̀ kọ́mọ jímọ́tò gbé kọ́mọ jalè ọlọ́run bá sọ̀pọ̀tì ẹ̀ ìlú faramọ́ ó bá pé ànímọ́nì yẹn pèsè we are for a number wàá gúnlẹ̀ láyọ̀ tàlàfíà.
This the corruption theory.
Comrade Nuhu Aliyu, as chairman of Pengasan Kaduna Depot branch for PPMC Kaduna, in the fight for oil workers. Na im work be that, to make sure say company no cheat oil staff in any way. But for Thursday, October 15, 2020, Justice Darius Kobu of Kaduna State High Court knack am change for hand, send am go jail for fraud.
The problem we have generally in our value system. Because if a young man buy a car now, go buy a big car, they drive. People no one know what you do to get that money. Now the car then they celebrate. You understand? And because the system what we give for our Niger, they don't program them where make people follow due process. They just do them say, just go do anything what you go do to get money and become big boy, get big name. So whether you like it or not, somehow we are destroying the fabric of our society. Because people will always want to look for something to do to be big boy. Because I mean, for even people to relate with you, even in the church or mosque where you they go, for people to relate with you very well, they want to know what you get. Our young people has always been a problem to us because we don't have people as mentors who will follow. Now be the problem where we get. We not get leadership, good leadership. Now Nigeria lack. And like I said, Nigerian problem has never been corruption. No be corruption. Nigerian problem is leadership and value system. The day we fix our leadership, every other thing will follow. You know, Nigeria, we easily forget where they come from. Now we have a problem. You see, when we are not in position, we can talk. But the moment they give Nigerian man power, it become one strong Ogbonga Oga. We go take decision whether people agree or people don't agree. What I will say, they say, that thing where that man do no different from what people they do in different offices. So if we want to condemn them, we have to condemn them complete. Say, na bad behavior. We don't want that kind of thing in our society, especially as a union leader. You know, they're correct at all.
The Kaduna Zonal Office of the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, drag Comrade Nuhu Aliyu go court on top magomagorish things and abuse of him office. The lawyer of EFCC carried 2 documents show court as evidence. The story of Nuhu Aliyu na matter of how we young people they shout corruption dey, but once power touch some of them hand, them fit even corrupt past the people where them they condemn.
Wetin him do no good. In fact, it dey bad for our young generation when they come, because as him do that kind thing, it really affects a lot of things. As a youth, as in be youth, he's supposed to not do that kind of thing, because I believe say as they work for government or union, you're supposed to be transparent. You get what they call, as they pronounce them, transparency. You're supposed to be transparent in waiting you they do. No make mistake, because people they look onto you for better leadership.
Comrade Nuhu Aliyu, as chairman of the Workers' Union for NNPC Kaduna Depot, summoned meeting of some of the members of the top organs of the union, but he make sure say some other members no know. The meeting where he summoned, he no even hold, but Nuhu Aliyu jejely go process payment for both himself and the ghost of other members when he invite come meeting wey no hold. When he process ghost meeting money finish, he share the money into 2, pay himself 934,000 naira, come give secretary of the union 900,000 naira. A closed mouth forged signature of some other organs of the union make for fit process this money. As he finish in magomagorish work, him gazo the 934,000 naira wey him pay himself. The secretary of the union, Mukhtar Aliyu, wey collect 900,000 naira, come return that money give am. Long and short, Oga Chiamo, he gbab complete 1,834,900 naira chop am clean mouth. When EFCC arranged am for front of Justice Darius Kobu, him confess to say him dey guilty. He deceive him comrades and NNPC thief money. Justice Koko sentenced him to fine of 100,000 naira. If he no pay, he go balance for prison for 10 years.
If na say they no come catch am, if we no accept, if we no agree say him steal am, So now because they catch am, now you go hungry say, okay, yes. That time when we did small, say your mama catch you hand inside soup. It don't mean say they no go flog you. You agree say you steal the meat, it don't mean say they will can't leave you. Because if I say your mama no catch you, you for no even agree say you chop meat in the first place. Because that kind of thing no be matter where you go handle with such kind of punishment. But it be like say person steal 10 bags of rice, they can't tell am may return 10 mudus. Person where they watch for back go say, last the punishment this small. But if they listen to radio, now one man call, the man say him and his small pikin dey for house. Now they watch news for Nigeria here. The man steal serious billion, almost 4 billion naira. Now after small time, court can't release am, people can't hail am, they praise am. The boy can't tell him father, say, daddy, why you no be like this man? The father go answer why. He say, daddy, you man, may you go steal, they go release you and people go clap for you. So for that small boy in mind now, stealing no be bad thing. Because at the end of the day, they go clap for you.
And EFCC must to collect that 1,834,900 naira from in hand complete, return them to Pipelines and Petroleum Marketing Company, PPMC, will be branch of NNPC, for where Nuhu Aliyu commotes the money from.
This na corruption theory.
Every day, Uncle Comrade go dey accuse Oga of NNPC for this side, say he thief this one, oh. They accuse on that Oga, say them hold that one, oh. But them can't put Comrade as Oga, sharp, in don't collect him own. Haba. No be pot wey balance they cut kettle black be that one. Then, my people, make una come help me look, oh. Person thief 1.8 million naira, e pass safe. Then find am 100,000. Una dey hear me dey see. I cannot ask any question before we go. They say them. I beg, make we jam again for corruption story next week. Till that time reach, I beg, remember, say nothing better pass peace of mind. And na honest money, na they bring peace of mind. Sake of, it go sweet to chop. My name na Ufuoma Iguriasi. Una bye yo.